Sutra. The knots must be untied successively. When the six are released, even the one ceases to be. Select an organ preferred for perfect penetration, enter the flow, and realize proper enlightenment. Commentary. The knots must be untied successively. It is necessary to follow an order in releasing the knots. How does one release them successively? How do they get bound together in the first place, you ask? To begin with, the nature of the treasury of the first common is not subject to production and extinction, but confusion takes on the aspect of emptiness. Delusion and obscurity make emptiness. At that point, ignorance arises. Therefore, although the nature of the treasury of the first common is neither produced nor destroyed, relying on truth, a falseness arises, and with it the mind, subject to production and extinction, a consciousness. This consciousness divides into the sixth, seventh, and eighth consciousnesses. But the source of the eighth consciousness, which is founded on ignorance that creates production and extinction, is the nature of the treasury of the first common, which is not subject to production or extinction. Its source is the pure nature and bright substance of the eternal true mind. Relying on truth and falseness arises. The treasury of the first common changes into the alaya consciousness, the eighth consciousness, also called the storehouse consciousness. The eighth consciousness is the basis for the existence of the five skandhas: form, feeling, thought, activity, and consciousness. Starting with the skandha of consciousness, one progresses to the skandha of activity. This is the seventh consciousness, the manas consciousness, monashi, also called the transmitting consciousness, transungshi. This consciousness transmits messages from the sixth consciousness to the eighth consciousness. It forms the activity skandha. The next skandha is that of thought. This is the sixth consciousness, the mind consciousness. The feeling skandha is the first five consciousnesses of the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and body. The skandhas of feeling, thought, activity, and consciousness correspond to one knot each. The form skandha counts as two knots because it is a quasar. Thus, the six knots start with the eighth consciousness and progress through the seventh and the sixth, and then through the five. With the existence of the five skandhas, the five tabbidities come into being, producing all kinds of obstructions. If we want to untie these knots, we must first stop tracing after the skandha of form. Once these two knots are broken open, then the other skandhas of feeling, thought, activity, and consciousness are released as well. The six knots are all untied. The knots must be untied successively because the skandha of form is composed of coarse knots, while the remaining skandhas of feeling, thought, activity, and consciousness are extremely subtle. So why do they begin their formation from the inside and work outward? You wonder. It is because the eighth consciousness is the first to arrive at conception. It all starts with the eighth consciousness. The five skandhas and the eighth consciousness become bound together. In the knot of birth and death, it starts with the eighth consciousness. You release it by starting with the form skandha, the process that can be likened to removing clothes. You take off an outer layer and an inner layer is revealed. In this way, you take off layer after layer until you have removed them all. Then the knot is untied. That's how it's explained, but actually if you release one knot, The other 5 will disappear as well. The verse says, when the 6 are released, even the one ceases to be. When the 6 sense organs, the knots, are freed, the one disappears as well. This will be explained in detail later in the text. Select organ preferred for perfect penetration. The method for cultivation is applying effort right at the entrance to the 6 organs. That is, the eyes are not turned by forms, the ears are not turned by sounds, the nose are not turned by smells, the tongue is not turned by flavors, the body is not turned by objects of touch, and the mind is not turned by dogmas. You transform what takes place at the entrance to the 6 organs. You return the light to illumine within. You do not seek outside God and gather in your body and mind, seek within yourself. In cultivating the 6 organs, you have to select one organ which will lead you to perfect penetration. The Buddha has already laid the groundwork for this. He discussed the efficacy of 1200 of each of the organs and told Ananda to see which organs were more complete. The eyes, for instance, are not complete, but the ears are. The tongue and the mind are also complete organs. 3 are complete and 3 are not. You are to select a complete organ and then develop your skill in cultivation with regard to it. Shakyamuni Buddha has tacitly implied that the organ of the ear will lead to perfect penetration, but he was not come right out and said it. He wants Ananda to make his own selection. He wants him to figure it out for himself. Select an organ preferred for perfect penetration and enter the flow of realized proper enlightenment. Enter the flow of Dharma nature of the sages. Turn against the flow of the 6 sense objects of an ordinary person. After entering the flow, one can accomplish proper enlightenment, that is, become a Buddha. Sutra, extremely subtle, the Adana consciousness makes patterns of habit that flow on in torrents. Fearing you will confuse the truth with what is not, I rarely tell you of all this. Commentary. This is Dharma which Shakyamuni Buddha rarely speaks. I rarely tell you of all this. I don't ever like to explain this Dharma. Just imagine, Shakyamuni Buddha rarely explained this Dharma for the great Arhats, the great Bodhisattvas, and the great Bhikshus. And yet, how easily we have had the opportunity to hear this wonderful Dharma spoken by the Buddha. Extremely subtle, the Adana, Tuana consciousness. This is a very subtle consciousness, even more so than the eighth. The Adana is also called the pure consciousness. It is the seed of purity. This essentially fine and subtle consciousness makes patterns of habit that flow on in torrents. This is the source of our birth and death. As soon as falseness arises in the one truth of that subtle consciousness, one thought of ignorance, it turns into habits that come on like a torrent. Nothing will curtail them. Here, our torrent refers to our birth and death, being born and dying, in birth and death again and again, sometimes as a person, sometimes an animal, sometimes born as a god, sometimes falling into the house, spinning ceaselessly. Patterns of habit flow on in torrents. Fearing you will confuse the truth with what is not, I rarely tell you of all this. Why isn't the true Dharma taught about? Why don't I express the subtle wonder of the genuine Dharma for you? I'm afraid people will think that the true is false and that they will think what is really false is true. For example, you were determined to act right to enlightenment, and by doing so you just add confusion to confusion and become doubly deluded. Normally, I don't explain this wonderful Dharma. I speak the small vehicle doctrines for you small vehicle people. Genuine, wonderful Dharma of the Great Assembly is something I've never told you about before. I haven't done so because your pupil of the small vehicle still don't have the stature to hear it. You haven't turned from the small toward the great, so even when I wanted to explain it, I refrained. Sutra, withdrawn mind, you grasp a drawn mind. What is not illusory turns into illusion. If you don't grasp, there is no non-illusion. If even non-illusion does not arise, how can illusory dharmas be established? This is called the wonderful lotus flower, the regal vara germ of enlightenment. Commentary with your mind. You grasp a drawn mind. Living beings do not understand that the division of seeing and the division of appearances are manifestations of the mind alone. The three realms come only from consciousness. The Maya Dharma spring only from the mind, not understanding that all kinds are made from the mind alone. They become attached to the seeing division, that is to their own subjective viewpoint, their eighth consciousness. The appearance division refers to external objects. Basically, the division of seeing and the division of appearances are both empty and false. They are figments of your own mind. Most people never realize that they should turn the lights and illumine within. They just keep seeking outside themselves. They get confused about the true and chase after what is false. If you realize that the myriad dharmas come from your mind alone, if you recognize your own mind and see your own nature, you will know that the two divisions of seeing and appearances arise from your own mind. If you understand the bright substance and pure nature of your eternal true mind, you will not run outside but will return home. What is not illusory turns into illusion, because living beings are confused about what is true and trace after what is false. They come to have doubts about what basically was not illusory and so becomes illusory. You must be able to not grasp at these illusory appearances. Not grasping is the important point here. The reason most people are confused by the six sense organs and six sense objects is that they grasp at the two divisions of seeing and appearances. They become attached to the belief that their capacity to see is the division of seeing and that what they see really exists. They don't know what it is empty and false, it is illusory. If you don't grasp, there is no illusion. There isn't any non-illusion. If even non-illusion does not arise. What is not empty and false basically does not come into being. There is no place where it is produced. How can illusory dharmas be established? How can empty illusory dharma exist? They don't. This is called the wonderful lotus flower, wonderful and subtle. The lotus flower arises from the mud but is not divided by it. It grows in mud but is itself pure, and the flower and fruit appear simultaneously. It is the regal vara germ of enlightenment. Vara is the most durable and toughest substance. It represents wisdom. Nothing can destroy or break through genuine wisdom. Regal means free and easy, as a king is. Germ of enlightenment refers to our true mind. If you can keep from grasping at the two divisions of seeing and appearances, if you can turn it to the source, then you can return to the nature of the treasury of the first come one by turning the consciousnesses into wisdom. Once the turning is accomplished, the two divisions turn into a wonderful lotus flowers, the gem of enlightenment. Sutra. In this samapatti that is likened to illusion, transcend all study instantly. Commentary. It is also called by another name, samapatti that is likened to illusion. Samapatti is a Sanskrit word which means holding equally. That is the equal meaning of the power of samadhi and the power of wisdom. With wisdom, you can untie the 6 knots. With samadhi, you will not create the 6 knots. In this samapatti, one should transcend all study instantly. Instantly is literally in a finger snap. In no time at all, one transcends the positions in which there is still study and arrives at the position of no further study. That is the 4th fruition of arhatship. The positions of the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd fruitions, where there is something left to study, are transcended in a finger snap, as one is certified to the 4th fruition, arhatship. Sutra. This Abhidharma incomparable is a single pathway through Nirvana's gate, taken by Bhagavans in all the 10 directions. Commentary. This Abhidharma incomparable. Abhidharma translates as peerless. This refers to the kind of dharma. The method being discussed is the single pathway through Nirvana's gate. It is the unsurpassed profound, so untie the knots taken by Bhagavans in all the 10 directions. Bhagavan is the transliterated pronunciation. Poor Chia Fan is found at the beginning of the 4th section of the Shurangama mantra. It is a universal name for the Buddha, used by and recognized by Buddhas, spirits, and ghosts in referring to Buddhas. Here, Bhagavan is not translated because the original word includes 6 meanings. A translation can render only one meaning. The 6 meanings of Bhagavan are 1. Comfortable. The Buddha's nature is comfortable in the same way that the name contemplate in comfort given to Kwan Bodhisattva means that he is a comfortable Bodhisattva. 2. Dazzling. This means describes the Buddha's light, which pervades the Dharma Realm. 3. Decorous. The Buddha is correct in his bearing and never lax or lazy. We should try to be the same. When you listen to sutras, you should sit in an appropriately respectful manner. Don't lounge or slouch or stretch out. It should be as if the Buddha himself were before you speaking the Dharma. Since we believe in the Buddha, we should show our respect to him. But don't be lazy right before the Buddha's eyes. When listening to sutras, you cannot lie down or go to sleep. You shouldn't lie down when reading sutras either. I've told you before that if you do that, you will become a snake in the future. Snakes have to lie down even when they move from place to place. They can't stand up. When you read a sutra, you should sit up straight and perhaps place it on the table in front of you. If you have 1 degree of respect, you increase your wisdom by 1 degree. If you have 10 degrees of respect, you increase your wisdom by 10 degrees. If you have 100,000 or 10,000 degrees of respect, you increase your wisdom by the same amount. You also increase your good roots. The Vara Sutra says it clearly. There is a Buddha in any place that the sutra text is found. A Buddha you respect will bring a response. If you lack respect, there won't be a response. Consider it as if Shakyamuni Buddha himself were lecturing the sutra for you, and the Venerable Ananda was by your side. And around you in the great assembly are all the great Bodhisattvas as well. Let it be just like the Dharma assembly on Magic Mountain. If you had the kind of respect, there would be no way you could fail to get enlightened. But Ananda had listened to so much of the teaching and still hadn't become enlightened. Can I become enlightened now or on first hearing it? How do you know Ananda didn't become enlightened? Maybe Ananda was intentionally pretending not to be enlightened so that the Buddha would speak the sutra and we now can hear it. Ananda became a Buddha a long time ago, not to speak of his gaining any lesser enlightenment. He's just appearing as the spokesperson and acting like he doesn't understand. In fact, Ananda remembered the very bit of the Dharma the Buddha spoke. He could not have understood the principles the Buddha is explaining here. He has long since understood and is just requesting Dharma on behalf of us who are living beings now. He is a model, an example for us. You should think that you're smarter than Ananda. You shouldn't think that you're smarter than Ananda. You're not. Renowned. Everyone praises the Bhagavan. Everyone respects him. 5. Lucky, 6. Honored and noble. Since the title Bhagavan has 36 meanings, it is not translated. Among the 5 kinds of terms not translated, it is the one that has many meanings. It's a single pathway through Nirvana's gate. This Dharma door is the one by which the Buddhas of the 10 directions accomplished Buddhahood. They took the road that led to Nirvana. Sutra. When Ananda in the Great Assembly heard the unsurpassed compassionate instruction of the Buddha, the first one, this harmonious and brilliant Gaya verse with its clear and penetrating wonderful principles, their hearts and eyes were opened, and they exclaimed that Dharma such as this had never been before. Commentary. When Ananda and the Great Assembly heard the unsurpassed, compassionate instruction of the Buddha, the first one, Ananda and everyone in the Great Assembly were influenced by the reiterative verse the Buddha spoke about, the one path for entrance into Nirvana, taken by all the Buddhas of the 10 directions. Nothing could be more lofty than this compassionate explanation. This harmonious and brilliant Gaya verse, Gaya reiterative verse, recapitulates the prose which precedes it. Such verses have a fixed number of characters in each line in the Chinese, be it 4, 5, 6, or 7. This verse Dharma is expressed in a harmonious and illuminating way, so it is said to be harmonious and brilliant, with its clear and understanding wonderful principles. This subtle wonderful principle expresses what is absolutely fundamental and essential. Their hearts and eyes are opened. Ananda and the members of the Great Assembly came to understand a great deal more doctrine than they never had before. Their minds were clearer and their eyes were brighter, and this in turn increased their wisdom. Here, eyes refers to the opening of the wisdom eye, and this claimed the Dharma Sutra. The Dharma suggests this had never been before. This Dharma is so wonderful, there's never been anything like it before.